Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, but I'm actually quite worried because the first panel was astounding. But because this is a panel on design, we're going to be efficient, both in terms of time and the way we moderate this session. Actually, yesterday evening, Paro was really beautiful after the rain. As the neon lights slowly came up, I don't know how many of you had the opportunity to look at the Dungkar Dzong. The form, the symmetry, the setting, and the grandeur actually captures everything you want to know about design. I think that's design at its highest. I think good design and actually transcendental design should take our breath away and place us in a sense of awe. And I think that's the goal of design, to realign us to our highest purpose. And I think that's what the conference has all been about, sort of shifting ourselves from the material all the way up to the spiritual. Today, if you look across the world, from the drones which are flying in Israel to Ukraine, everything is influenced by design. Yeah, from the nuclear warheads. And in our own backyard, I heard about a new city in India and our own Gelephu Mindfulness City. Design is going to be at the heart of what we do. So design is very much omnipresent, and in a sense, design is actually life. You cannot escape design. From the go we wear to the robes we put on to the glasses we wear, design is omnipresent. So this morning, unfortunately, apart from one panelist, I haven't met the others. So we're going to introduce ourselves on the stage. Our panel is going to delve a little deeper into what design is, what good design can do for us, what is the process of designing, how can it be shaped by the future, and how it will be shaped by the rapid rise of AI. And also we will discuss a few practicalities in terms of how design plays off when we do things on the ground. So having said that, it's my absolute pleasure to invite, again, Yugma, I think. I don't know wherever you are. Yeah. And I will invite all the ladies first, Sonam, if you don't mind. Tshering Pelden from the Ministry of Infrastructure and Transport. Sumitra Ghalley from the College of Science and Technology. And my own colleague, Sonam, from the Nature Conservation Division. Okay, we promise to be efficient. The way we're going to do this is I want to invite my panelists, because I do not know them as well, first of all, to introduce yourselves. Talk a little bit about what design means for you, what you do for your work, and then maybe we can then start a conversation. Maybe we could start with you.
Good morning and Kuzampula. It's a privilege to be part of this very timely discussion. My name is Tshering Pelden, and I serve as a senior urban planner with the Department of Human Settlement under Ministry of Infrastructure and Transport. And I work in urban planning, so most of the time I'm involved in thinking about how our towns should go. Things like where the homes should be, where the roads and other infrastructures like drainage and parks are best suited. But planning isn't just about writing maps or making rules. It's also about thinking about people, how they behave, how the land behaves, and the relationship between people and land. And for instance, before a farmer plants anything, they don't just start digging up the place. They observe the land, they think about, and they see where the light falls, where water flows, and which parts are rocky. And similarly, when we plan a town, such kind of observation is also necessary. And if you see our traditional villages like Koma, or for that matter, Ura or Rinchending, these villages are designed with care. The houses face the sunlight, the paths they follow along the terrain, and people, they naturally meet in the open spaces. And all these are not designed with technical tools, but these worked really, really well. But now things are obviously changing because towns are growing fast, land is becoming expensive by the day, and different people want different things. Some people want taller buildings, while some they want to preserve the open spaces. So public utilities like parks and drainage, they often comes in conflict with private interests, and so even if we have a very good plan on paper, it becomes difficult to implement these because of this conflict between private interests versus public interests. And this is where I think technology comes in place. For instance, we can use GIS mapping to see where water floods during the monsoon, or we can use apps to collect information on what matters for people in their neighborhood. We can use AI tools to test designs and build roads and design roads and drainage better, but we should be mindful that technology and local experience and wisdom should go hand in hand. Technology shouldn't overtake local knowledge and wisdom. And this we are doing in Bhutan with projects such as Gelephu Mindfulness City and the Thimphu Structure Plan. These plans are based on, they use culture and tradition as a foundation of design, not just concrete and roads. And because when we slow down and start observing carefully, like our farmers do, I believe that we can design places that are not just smart, but peaceful, resilient, and truly Bhutanese. Thank you, and I look forward to this discussion.
Well, we will circle back to you towards the end. Maybe, Madam, if you could.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sumitra Ghalley from College of Science and Technology. So basically, I'm into academics. So everything that we do in terms of architecture is related to critical thinking in terms of the context of that particular place. So when we think about design, it's about it's about people, it's about the place. So whenever we articulate any kind of a themed-based design, we make sure that the context of that particular place is respected. So with that intention, the design thinking process is being cultivated in our students. So with respect to that, at the same time, the ecosystem, the overall functionality of the whole context is also taken care. So with that, when we really think about design, it's about how we actually, benefit the site and surrounding the context. And also when we think about overall performance of the building, we really need to see how efficient the building is, how environmental friendly it is, how energy efficient it is. So all this, the avenues that we actually come in together to make a holistic design, and that's how we actually inculcate those values and those thinking process and critical analysis to our students. And at the same time, as and when they actually graduate from our institution, we make sure that they actually have a hands-on practice and training, and they can actually implement those kind of ideologies, because since it's in architecture, it's not about just thinking and designing, it's about how you actually place those things in reality context. So most of our works are very practical, so we make sure that students are on field experience, go for a field experience, have a practical understanding of all this technical backgrounds, so that they are actually able to be market ready. So all these things are there. At the same time, there are so many things like values, cultural aspects that we need to take while designing. So all these avenues are also taken care, because we do have modules which actually reflect in terms of sustainable design or planning, in terms of astrology, in terms of vernacular architecture, based in our context. So when it comes to architecture, it's very diverse, and it is have so many ways of putting things and design into a particular field. But when it comes to Bhutanese architects and architecture, we should make sure that our culture and our identity is being taken care with the, at the same time the overall surrounding is being taken care so that things are put in place in a better way.
Okay,
Thank
before I invite Sonam, I'd just like to introduce you. So Sonam heads our National Park Services. So before coming back to Yugma, so now the design is being scaled up a little bit. So from the towns to the houses, I would like Sonam to reflect on a little bit of the broader landscape which Bhutan is, placed itself, how the protected areas are designed, also have implications on the resources in terms of now the Gelephu Mindfulness City is coming up. So how do we manage all that within a broader context? If you could talk about design from a bigger landscape perspective, in addition to first introducing yourself, of course.
Yes, thank you. Good morning, everyone, distinguished panelists, esteemed guests, and my colleagues. I am Sonam Wangdi, the Chief Forestry Officer from the Nature Conservation Division, the office that looks after the protected area system of Bhutan, which covers 52% of our country. I am not a designer or an architect by profession. I am a conservationist, a nature conservationist by profession, and a protected area planner by profession. So that way I feel that me being in this panel where we are talking about design and then about planning, I feel that it is very relevant for me to be here in terms of how we design our protected areas in the first place, how we design the ecological space, the ecological spaces that is needed by nature, how we designed those spaces, the national parks, the biological corridors. So I would like to make a mention here that it was with ecological insights, deep observation, through our various researches, through our various surveys that we conducted, and the data and the insights that we got into the ecology, our protected areas, the national parks, the wildlife sanctuaries, the biological corridors that interconnects all these protected areas were designed. So that's where the design perspective comes in from the ecological perspective. And also, I would like to, going back to the moderator's question about how we integrate nature into design, and then now taking into consideration the city that we are planning, the Gelephu Mindfulness City, and how we as nature conservationists play a role in there. I specifically to one species that I'm very much interested in, I undertook studies on elephants. I radio collared 6 elephants in that landscape and then studied their movement to understand their migratory pattern and the use of the landscape. So we have insights of how elephants, we call elephants as the architect of nature, architect of the ecosystem, the gardener of ecosystem. How elephants move in that landscape, and now with Gelephu Mindfulness City coming in, I feel that those insights are very critical, and then we are very happy and in fact very fortunate to have our visionary king who has placed importance in nature conservation, and then taken into consideration the need for space for those the species that cannot speak for themselves. So I am the spokesperson for those species, in fact. So having insights about the movement of elephants in that landscape, now the Gelephu Mindfulness City, the draft master plan that we have contributed towards the ecology part of the Gelephu Mindfulness City. I feel that the city planners, taking into consideration the need for elephants to move across the landscape, they have kept a green corridor for elephants to move through, because as you all may be knowing, the Gelephu Mindfulness City is bookended by 2 national parks, the Phipsu Wildlife Sanctuary towards the west and Royal Manas National Park in the east. So elephants from Phipsu Wildlife Sanctuary, through my study, they move across the place where the city is currently being planned, across the Gelephu landscape, and then move into Manas. So that way, our insights, our ecological study and the understanding about the need by those species of their species, I feel that that has been taken into consideration. And then, as the city's name speaks, being mindful about the need of all the species, all the sentient beings in that particular landscape. So elephant as the representative or as the umbrella species, Gelephu Mindfulness City Authority, the GMC authority, taking into consideration the need for those, the need for the movement of elephants and other species across the landscape, and keeping a corridor, a green corridor for those species to move across the landscape is very, very much forward-looking in terms of the design of the city itself. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Maybe we'll circle back to Yugma now. So you have a lot of experience in terms of providing all these designs, and I know that you have worked a little bit in Bhutan. In your mind, with all this experience, what are some of the things which are, as you see, which you think are the biggest opportunities here in Bhutan as you continue to design things here?
So I think the ancient houses and the structures of the country has, which are the rammed earth, the new construction techniques has forgotten those. And just adapting the modern and the ancient or the other technical details, which is not appropriate to this environment, is not sustainable. So to get this country self-sustainable is to firstly accept, present, and start adapting that these are the things we have and we utilize them first, which is very necessary. If you think about the modern technology that is yet to come, still, we have abundant knowledge from the nature. If we just look at around, we have everything to understand, to mold, to structure, and to live with it. So the country, the people here, what we understand is, first, the labor-intensive work is depending on the other countries, because the people here are not technical so far. Even if there is a possibility, we have found there is a less possible interested people to get into this. So the new generation, if we give them a new technology-driven techniques to use in a construction, housing, or it's a big thing, or even it can go to the roads, any structure, any mobilities, energy, I think they can forward ahead with the technical parts. Yes, technical-driven structures is much easier for them. Sit, computer, do works.
I think these days everybody's talking about the Gelephu Mindfulness City. So maybe I could continue with you and give your insights on, what are your perspectives on the city, and then maybe I'll circle back to you, Tshering, talk a little bit about how you are playing your role in GMC.
I haven't been to the place yet, but it looks very native, very connected to the nature. The structure just emerges with the nature. You cannot make out that these are the structures that the construction happened to that thing, which really liberates the knowledge there. And the way the perspective has happened for the mindfulness city is quite fascinating for the people who are coming from the outdoors, and even for the youngsters who have left the country, come back and be the part of the town, is also a very new idea of how His Majesty has perspective for that. So that's all I know for that for now. So I'm not directly involved in Gelephu Mindfulness City, but I have gone through the plans because for the infrastructure part, our department also reviews some of the documents. So like Yugma said, Gelephu Mindfulness City is very infused with nature and culture. The architecture is very traditional to Bhutan. It's well preserved in the plans. And also the scale of the construction. It's very within the human scale. So the buildings are not like 10-storied or 11, 12-storied, high-storied buildings, but it's very in human scale. Yeah.
Now pivot over to Madam Ghalley. In terms of education, I know we have heard a lot about education this morning, and in terms of particularly the Royal University, with all these now, the Thimphu Paro Urban Planning Master Plan is up and running, the Gelephu Mindfulness City is coming, I think Bumtang still needs to be built up, all that in light of what's happening in Bhutan. How is the Royal University positioning yourself to cater to these future demands for design?
I think as of now, when it comes to Royal University of Bhutan, I think we have around 7 to 8 colleges and all across the country. So, while addressing, I think much of thing is already catered because we do have some colleges towards the eastern periphery, towards the southern, central, and the northern periphery. So I feel like we are doing.
No, in terms from a College of Science and Technology,
okay.
from your college. Yeah.
Okay, so based on, when it comes to College of Science and Technology, I think since we are the only engineering institute, I think we have been able to produce good engineers, and it has been, they have been doing very well, not only engineers, architects, they have been promising, and like so many engineers and architects have been working so far. And I think till now, the graduates that we have has been all absorbed in the government institutions. So not only that, I think there are so many avenues that our graduates are going to participate in the Gelephu Mindfulness City as well. So I think there's so much of capacity building at the college level, and it's catering to the at a government level.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open up the questions to the floor. Before that, I want to remind the panel for the closing remarks once we are done with the questions from the floor. Maybe if you could wrap up by summing up what good design means for you, how you embrace it, and what do you see as the big challenges as you move along in your workspaces, if you could. So yeah, I would like to take questions from the floor. Yeah, you were not seen in the first one, so I see you right now, the first one, okay. Right at the back. We will go at the back first. I don't think she knows karate, but we will give her the first option.
Thank you. I can speak or, well, maybe I should follow the quorum. So again, I'm Pem Tshering. I just wanted to ask a question to Sonam, spurred on by his, lovely comment about elephants being, sort of at the center of the ecology. Badly paraphrasing. When I went to Zambia last year, I learned that elephants have this sort of, historical, I think, memory, right? And so the paths that they, travel when they migrate every year, is the same, irregardless of how you move things around, how you build roads or you don't. They continue doing that year on year, and of course, we can't make them unlearn these things, right? And so, in the context of GMC being built, and as you nicely put it, it's bookended by these 2 national parks, it's good to hear that there is, provision being put in place for a path that they can continue to walk. But I think my question is this sort of historical memory of the elephants being, built in so that we are designing around their migration paths, as it were, as opposed to trying to get them to adapt to a new one, which, in Africa they've found you can't do it, right? The elephants, even at risk of death and so much worse, they keep coming back again and again and again, right? And so, in the context of what we're saying, we're here to be facilitators, for all sentient beings, right? Not just humans. So in that way, I guess wanted to ask what provision is being made, and in that sense then, what can we do, I suppose, to facilitate that? Last year, and Tashu Benji's here, but we hosted a really great conference for tiger conservation here in this very setting, in fact, right? And I think it did a lot to raise awareness for the plight of the tigers. And in that same way, should something similar be done for elephants? You know, because it's not just a Bhutan problem, right? It's across the world, as it were. So just wanted to put that question. Thank you.
Thank you, Pim. In fact, a very interesting question. Yeah, elephants, if we compare ourselves to elephants, they are far more intelligent being than us. We tend to think with all the artificial support that we get, we tend to think that we are more intelligent than them, but we are not. In fact, if we consider ourselves as human alone, without the artificial intelligence aiding us, we are far less intelligent than elephants. Elephants are far more intelligent, I would say. Yeah, coming back straight to your question about how we are designing this, yes, we have considered. That's why I talked about my experience of radio collaring those elephants and tracking their movement across the landscape, and then how, what are the patterns of movement. So we have undertaken the study mainly to track their movement and then see which are the landscapes that are most commonly used. While Gelephu, the old name for Gelephu was Hatisar. Hati in India, in Indian language, or even in our southern Bhutanese, Hati is elephant. Sar is basically the habitat. So it's in fact, it's elephant shed actually, literally if we translate it. So the whole of Gelephu, or the Gelephu landscape, was an elephant habitat. But as humans started settling in that landscape, I think elephants also adjusted their movement. Of course, we do get occasional conflict where elephants come into human spaces, and then that's where the human-elephant conflict arises. So we have taken into consideration all those, and then furthermore, we are now coming up with the principles of wildlife-friendly infrastructures. Right now, we are actively involved in the road that is being planned to be built from Gelephu to Taretang. So the road design has taken into consideration all those that, not just elephant, but considering all other smaller mammals and other smaller reptiles as well. So the road design, because the road is being built in Gelephu Mindfulness City, we have to be mindful of how we build the road. So we are actively participating in the design of the road, and then the road is being built as an elephant-friendly or wildlife-friendly infrastructure, where the movement need of the elephant is taken into consideration, and movement need not just for elephants but other species are also taken into consideration. For example, that particular landscape also has golden langurs. So now we are going to come up with aerial bridges to facilitate movement of golden langur from one side of the road to the other. So similar to that, culverts are being designed in a way that would facilitate the movement of smaller mammals, and bridges are being built, designed to be built in a way that would facilitate the movement of elephant across the landscape. So very soon we will have our national guideline for the wildlife-friendly infrastructure principles. So with that, I'm pretty sure we are considering not just the human needs, but the need of other species that inhabits the landscape as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonam. I'll take the question from the gentleman in the front.
Thank you so much, Daniel Fong from Hong Kong. This is really a follow-up to Pam Shering's very pointed question. And I wonder whether actually human beings, Homo sapiens, can build roads, highways, which are, as it were, elephant-friendly or other mammal-friendly. Because if you look at the experience for the past 100 years in the Columbia River, just to take one example, Columbia River in Washington State, United States, where they were so successful in damming the Columbia River that salmon could not spawn. They could not swim upstream, and they die because they continue year after year, decade after decade, to go upstream, to spawn. And they will not take no for an answer. So after a century of this type of treatment of the natural species, eventually the policy was to demolish all the dams. And that is the most effective way of redressing the ecological imbalance, and the most efficient way, I think, or most effective way to address the question of climate justice or climate injustice or human injustice inflicted on natural species whose habitat we, so-called Homo sapiens, I suppose we should call ourselves Homo non-sapiens, have actually invaded their habitat, destroyed their means to survive and to sustain. And when they supposedly encroach on our farmland, in fact, we're encroaching on their territory, we say they're a menace, and we therefore take steps to eradicate that menace. I wonder whether we have moved beyond this 20th century or 19th century mindset into the Gelephu mindset, which is actually to respect not just other human beings, not just indigenous people, but actually indigenous species which inhabit the land on which we have encroached without their consent or permission.
Thank you. I think I will leave Sonam out of this because otherwise I will get accused of two middle-aged conservationists taking away the conversation, so to say. So I'm going to ask our planners here and also Yugma, bring them to bear on how do you look at natural systems, and when you're building a human system, how do you incorporate these natural elements? What are the principles there? So maybe all three of you. And then, of course, I'll give Sonam the last word because I still have to work with him a lot. So you can have the last word.
So yeah, when we do our plans, when we make plans for the towns or any human settlement, it's important. One of the important planning principle is like ecological design and integrating ecology and environment in the planning principle. So for instance, how we do that in the Thimphu structure plan, the revised Thimphu structure plan is usually when we plan, we take out the environmentally fragile areas like the steep slopes, the flood. We don't have floodplains in Thimphu, but the areas along the major rivers and the major streams, like perennial streams, because those are like the natural drainage, stormwater drainage, especially during the monsoon season. So if we allow development into the environmentally sensitive areas, then we are asking for disaster. That's when like landslides and also like the flooding comes into play.
So when it comes to overall planning in terms of urban planning, so basically I feel like there should be a proper regional planning so that there is certain kind of ecological corridor set in for the wildlife or any kind of setting that is there. So just to benefit the ecological setting of that particular place. So basically, it's more to do with the overall planning of that city or that particular vicinity area so that it actually facilitates all this wildlife, and it also protects the natural environment. So that's how things are done in the, at a planning level. And also maybe we can also look into the mixed-use planning so that it actually helps not only for the other settings, but also for people to have a very comfortable and a harmonious setting in their settlement.
I'll give you one example. When I was studying, my teacher told me most of the students with me were over 50 years in architecture when I was studying in London. So I asked my teacher, why is that? And he said that architecture is an experience that you learn after a certain age. It is an observation that you know what is the life of a human and a life you're living with the other humans. So that is the very first important things we understand as, I need to preserve this as a deep observation, not to reach at 50, but now. With all these technology and the details we have, as fast as possible we can reach there. So for ecological, we must see how the first human is required things there, and what is not needed is not given overloaded to them. Because one human cannot manage 2 acres of land alone. They need human hands more than that. The only thing is that they have to observe and put it into the design. Or as a designer, I do that. I do not overburden to the human. I don't even put one single extra steps to raise. So that is a small, minute details. We could put it from the ecological design to a small, minute.
Do you want to have a last say on this?
Yeah, I think, like I said, thank you for your remarks. It's a wonderful support to what I said. In fact, getting out of this 19th century or the 20th century mindset, I think it may not be possible, but I think it is possible to reduce the impact of how we build the infrastructure, how mindfully we are constructing the infrastructure, how ecological considerations are being made. So that here is an opportunity. I see the Gelephu Mindfulness City as an opportunity where we show to the world. So in the early 70s, by our visionary fourth king, he came up with a different philosophy of defining economic development through the GNH principles. Now, here we are in the 20th century with His Majesty as his successor, leading Gelephu Mindfulness City, where we are trying to operationalize the concept of GNH, where we are taking into consideration the ecological needs, the need for niches, the spaces for nature, and how we design our infrastructure, taking into consideration the ecological insights. So I think this is an opportunity where we redefine. We may not be able to completely do away with the mindset, but I think how we redefine there, it is an opportunity for us. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have one more question. There are 2 hands. So maybe I will give first to the one in Go, because he's traditionally attired, and then maybe you in the front. Yeah. Could we maybe have the questions together, and then we could see how to answer?
First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity. Now, as a primary educationalist, we feel like all of these values are inevitable to be inculcated for the young children. But the only concern is that they are mostly into the modern technologies, the artificial intelligence and all. So they tend to neglect the traditional values, mainly because of their interests, their hobbies and all. So they seem to get bored and all. So may we get some advice on how we can convince the younger generations to balance both traditional and digital altogether, so that they could sustain all of these insights?
That's a loaded question. It should have gone to the first panel, but yeah, we'll try. Yeah, maybe gentlemen, you in the front. You had your hands up, yeah.
My question is about communities and how you design a city not just for the ecosystems but for humans as part of an ecosystem. So communities in the countryside are quite easy to define by space, but communities in cities are dynamic and they are not necessarily designed for space. And also, mistakes we've made in the West is we've disconnected our communities in the urban environment from communities in the rural environment. How do you design mindfulness the concept of community? And since it was so important in the first presentation on gross national happiness, how do we design for community for the 21st century, for mindfulness?
You want to tackle it?
Okay, if we talk about how we actually build a mindful city, so basically it's starts with the overall master plan, the planning of the particular city. So when we actually do that, what we do have so many guidelines in place, so green infrastructure or traditional Buddhist guidelines, but at the same time, when we build in the overall structure plan, we make sure there is a mixed use planning, proper land use planning, and for green space, for recreational space, for educational institution, for residential institutions. So when we actually have a proper planning or a zoning of a particular place with proper ideas or proper concept of that particular contextual city, or that particular, keeping in mind the culture or the history or the overall setting of that particular place, then I think we will definitely come with a proper mindful city, because we do have a very rich architecture. So we do have a good inspiration to take in from the traditional Buddhist architecture and the vernacular architecture. So I think if we really engross ourselves in all this avenue, from the planning level, in an overall planning, master plan level, to our architecture context, I think it's not something that we cannot achieve. So I feel it's doable based on all these parameters that we need to take care. And at the same time, if we really look into how we can design in our context at this juncture, is to actually have a mindful city, at the same time a healthy city, where we can actually build in, healthy city in a way that it's very comfortable for people to live in, for people to commute. All this infrastructure in terms of transportation networks, and everything has to be set aligned. So I think it's doable. At the same time, when it comes to AI or a parametric design, what we can do is, there are so many things that are in place today. So things can be put in a very simpler manner, because there are so many parameters and algorithms that we can fit in and actually help us navigate or infer certain kind of details and data that could actually help us in executing those kind of ideologies and those kind of concepts, those kind of rich ideas that we have in our own setting. I think that's doable. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think in the interest of time, because I promised to be efficient, and also I know that our master of ceremony really likes his tea. So we are going to have closing remarks from all our panelists, and then try to wrap up this session. Yeah, maybe Sonam can start first, and then I can sort of wrap this up.
Yes, thank you, Le. In the closing, I would like to say that ecological insight, what I have talked about, is not just a science. It's a way of seeing, feeling, and building. And if Bhutan is to lead the world in balancing development with nature, then every brick we lay must respect the root it stands on. Conservation and construction should not be seen as separate realms, but it must speak to each other in every step and in every way. So that way, I feel that the panelists out here, including myself, we need to think about how we bring in the best of the collaborations among these agencies. I, as a nature conservationist, and Tshering as the urban planner, and the other, and the other panelists with the insights of how we take into consideration the deep observation into the design. So that way, I feel that it shouldn't just stop with the panel discussion or with some statements, but we need to move forward and then see the best of the collaborations among these agencies, so that we get what we are talking about. Thank you.
Okay, since I'm from the education background, so I feel like when we are actually designing, implementing certain kind of ideologies, it's our grounding, it's a platform where we can actually, we can actually fuse in information and knowledge and transfer all these avenues, and actually they can actually go ahead and implement all these ideas and ideologies that actually come in from different stakeholders, because at the end of the day we are actually going to make a healthy or a beautiful city in a ecological, in a very comfortable ecological manner. So I think this is a platform where we can really work together to bring the best out of our cities. Thank you.
I would like to say one thing, that we need to stop at one place to stop construction. We take a pause and we think first before going to the next step. Even thinking do we really need another mindful city or not? These are the questions I think we should sit and come to the conclusion and think about it, whether there's too much construction already been done. You cannot remove it. It's a national disaster. The materials has been used. So we just take a pause. I think that's the one.
Yeah, so from everything that we have discussed here today, I think one thing is really clear. Good design and good planning, it doesn't start with some fancy tools or some top-down policy. It starts with something very simple, paying attention to the land, paying attention to how people live day to day, and how spaces can make people feel comfortable, safe, and human. And in Bhutan, we already have strong cultural roots. We understand our environment better, and we have the wisdom that supports that decision. So all that's left is to put all this into action. And I feel that when we observe with care, we can design with care. And that's what makes a place not just look good, but also feel good to live in. And I feel that I hope we can all move ahead with this mindset. Thank you.
Thank you, La. It's been a great pleasure to host this panel session. I know I'm not a designer, but I've learned a lot. And hopefully it was interesting for the audience. I think it was yesterday, I think the Vice-Chancellor of the Royal University mentioned something about Maslow's theory, I think, the hierarchy of human needs, where human needs are sort of vertically stacked, with physiological needs for food, water, shelter at the base, and then moving upwards towards an increasing need for understanding ourselves. A progression from the material to the spiritual, I think that's been a common theme across this 2 days conference, I think. To me personally, I think an inclusive design process, of course, should include and fulfill all the needs across this vertical gradient, where good designs, I think like this hall, should leave us with a renewed sense of hope. I think that's the idea. Of course, observation, good design then needs to be built on observation, built on planning, built on AI. Today, we didn't even get a chance to discuss material and the 3D printing and all these frontier technologies which are out there and which needs to be scaled up and leveraged and all that. We don't have time for that, unfortunately. And ultimately, I think design should help us heal. I think there's a beautiful TED Talk, Architecture to Heal. I would encourage you all to look it up. It's a beautiful talk. I forget the name of the architect. And it should definitely help us both heal ourselves and the planet by creating spaces which empower us all. So hopefully this has been really good for all of you. Thank you so much. Thank you.